Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining me here as you work through your facilitation training. I know you've already worked on some more high-tech parts of things you can use in a classroom or in a facilitation setting or in a seminar setting to deliver content. We're going to go a little old school today. We're going to actually take a step back and examine the way a flip chart can be used and should be used to deliver training without it becoming a distraction. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, my name is Sean Moore. I'm the training coordinator for the Small Business Development Center at the University of Kentucky. And it's my job to actually train, design new seminars, implement new seminars across a variety of topics. And depending on who that topic is used for or aimed at, we have to use sometimes the older methods for folks who may be a little bit afraid or can't keep up with some of the technology that's in place. Before we get started, if you don't mind introducing yourselves and what you guys do. I know you're teaching and you've done some of the student teaching, but I know there's a big push towards technology now in the classroom. So if we can start there, and then we'll work our way back. So if you don't mind, your name?
Sharon Lyons, teach first grade.
Okay. Do you use the technology in the room, or you still use things like a flip chart?
I do both.
Okay. Then if I say something here, or there's something you think I should be adding, please don't be shy about sharing that with the group. Okay. How about you?
Allie Moore, first grade teacher.
And are you using both things as well, or are you strictly a technology based?
In my classroom right now, I'm using more flip charts and an overhead because I don't have access right now.
You know what, we're actually going to draw on that because those situations reflect perfectly for why we would use a flip chart. Getting started, when you leave here today, and I actually see over here on your boards, you guys call them I can statements, the things that you hope to actually take out of any seminar or presentation. Now you want your kids, I can add, I can subtract. Well today, you guys, your I can statement, or we oftentimes will call them the what's in it for me statement. When you leave here today, you'll be able to describe and decide the best flip chart type to use, as well as knowing the colors you should use when you're writing on the flip charts, the pros and cons, but hopefully most importantly, you're going to know how to actually use this flip chart effectively. The computer's a little bit slow here today, so let's look at first the pros. Good and bad with everything. Good and bad with every form of technology, good and bad with even old school materials like a flip chart or with handouts. And in the case of the flip chart, one of them didn't come up here. In the case of the flip chart, the best things about them, you don't need electricity. As I was getting set up here today, I mean, you guys can see I've had to take some of your kids' chairs, set up my computer, to set up my projector, to be able to get it to shoot on a space on the wall where you all can see it. There's extension cords running along the ground that can become a hazard in a seminar setting if people are getting up, sitting down. It can certainly be a problem. A flip chart, doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have room to set up an easel, and now they actually even have them that sit directly on a table, you don't have to worry about electricity. Flip charts are very economical. These things come, I think, 5 to a pack. It didn't cost me anything because our office bought it, but you can actually go to Office Max or Staples and get these very, very cheap, and they'll last a very long time. Color can be added very easily. Looking at the cover page on our flip chart demonstration here, we've got black, we've got red, we've got kind of a pink color. You can use blues. You can use a lot of different colors here to actually add color to your presentation, to add some zip to your presentations. Flip charts allow for spontaneity. When you do a PowerPoint, and I think you guys use a lot of whiteboards or whiteboard and pre-programmed stuff, sometimes it's hard to go in and adjust those on the fly. A flip chart, I grab my marker, I can just simply come over here and adjust it as we go. It's a huge time saver. If I have certain things I know I have to cover, and I know the setting and the format in which I want to cover these things, it's very easy for me to have these ready ahead of time. And there are several pages in here that we have done already. And then, of course, reminders. If you're doing something over an extended period of time, or something that the content is going to have to be referred back to, as I remove the page, this particular one is a sticky chart, I can simply take it off, put it on the wall somewhere within sight of the group, and it's easy for us to refer back to it. I can simply say, if you remember this one over here, or if you're working on a project in a group or individually, you then have the option of just simply reflecting back upon it. Now, for every pro, course, you have to have a con. And this is what these are. In the case of cons, it's a very limited view. You have to be seated in certain parts of the room in order to be able to see it. One of the things you have to consider when selecting which kind of flip chart you even use is the audience that's going to be in that room. If you're talking to a group of people that might be a little bit older, you're going to have to use a bigger chart if you decide to use a chart, and the color impact is going to be absolutely crucial to that. How big is the chart, depending on the audience? How far can they see? Of course, you have to be seated within view of the chart for it to have any impact at all. And then when you take it off, and you do hang it on the wall, again, the entire room has to be able to see, and sometimes they can't. It can get messy. You're working with markers. More than once I have left a seminar and been told, hey, you've got marker on your face. Hey, you've got marker on your shirt. You go home, it doesn't come out of your clothes. It can certainly be a messy thing. A lot of folks don't like to deal with it. And they're easily ruined. Not the entire chart, all that can certainly happen, but it's easy to tear a page off of here and tear the page itself. If you were doing something that's going to be reused over a period of time, you put it on the wall for review. If you have to pack those things up at the end of the day and then put them up again somewhere down the road, there's a really good chance you will have ruined a page of your presentation that someone would need to refer back to, and it might not be a page that's easy to duplicate or easy to replicate. It can easily become a crutch. I'm the kind of speaker, and I know as teachers, you all are as well, you cannot be tied to one spot in the classroom. You have to be able to circulate amongst the desks. You have to be able to attract the attention of several different people within the room at any given time. Flip charts, like PowerPoints, like overhead projectors you said you have to use sometimes, you almost feel like you are tied there. And you can become overly reliant upon those things, which eliminates a lot of the interaction between yourselves and the class. You guys ever have that happen? I know you said you have the overhead. You have to be right there in order to change it.
Right.
Things can be going on in the back of the classroom that you can't get to because you know you have to stay here. How about you? Do you have? And you said you still use flip charts, but you also use what other technologies?
Yeah, we have the slates that work through our documents.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, okay, I'm with you.
So I can carry that with me and circulate the room and write on the slate, and it's showing up on the board no matter where I'm at.
See, we don't have those kind of tools yet, so we've got to get those.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to be able to do. So that still allows you to circulate within the room.
Right.
But if you have a flip chart,
Yeah,
I mean, you're here, you're right here. And one of the things that I know as teachers, you guys are very aware of this. When you turn your back on the class, what happens? Or what is the potential to happen?
You lose them.
You lose them. And it's always in the movies where the teachers and there's a big spitball comes flying past their head or something. I'm always worried about that. And my wife loves when I tell stories about when I used to do theater and I used to be in plays, because I always make myself up to be bigger than I ever was. It was like you can't get more off-Broadway than where we were. But the one lesson I always took out of that, aside from I'm a really good actor, was you never turn your back on the audience. When you turn your back and you're talking to the back wall, they can't hear you in a lot of cases. Or as you mentioned, you lose them. So that's one of the risks here. If you rely on this too much, or you turn it and the entire thing is not pre-prepared, you're talking to the back of the room, and they can't necessarily see what's going on, and you can't see if you're losing somebody because your back is to them. So that's one of the problems that I really don't like about this. And then just like any kind of a clicker, the markers for a presentation that you're doing on a flip chart can become a distraction. If you guys ever been someplace and someone's playing with their clicker, they're playing with their marker. A big one is, and here let me grab a good marker. One of the ones that I always hate is a presenter who does this. You ever been someplace where they play with the cap and eventually you lose track of what they're talking about, and they click and they click. And they just do it absent-mindedly, which is a very easy thing to do. So whether it's a clicker or the marker, when I first got married and I found I was back in front of the room, I wasn't used to wearing a wedding ring. And as people were talking to me or I was waiting for something to happen, I found that I was playing with my wedding ring. These are all distractions, and markers can be one of the absolute worst ones. So there's good and there's bad. As we move on here, we have to ask the question, when are we using them, when are we not using them? And these are kind of the simple questions, little test questions for you to work through. If electricity is an issue, you should think about using it. If you're doing a presentation that requires editing on the fly, and as teachers, you have math problems you have to do constantly, erasing, redoing. So that would be a good example of that. If the activity is group-based, meaning it's interactive where I have no choice, we're going to do this, you can't know ahead of time what the answers are going to be from the group, this is a good thing to be able to do. The flip chart is not the centerpiece of the presentation. That's when you should use this. This should never, ever, ever be the centerpiece of your presentation. It should always be the content you're delivering first and foremost, and then the presenter plays a very large role in the delivering of that content, whether it's a teacher, a facilitator, or a seminar leader. Do not use a flip chart if you cannot prepare the pages. Too much time, you lose the room. And if you have lousy handwriting like I do, I mean, these are pre-prepared, and you can see how bad this is. So once we start working on an activity here, you're going to see that my handwriting actually deteriorates much, much further. I don't overly rely on these for that reason. And if there's no place to hang the old pages, if you know they're going to have to refer back to them, and we will see that, we're going to actually have to refer back to something here. If there's no place to hang those pages to do that, you should not use a flip chart. We're going to do a little demonstration to show you how to actually seamlessly use a flip chart as you're talking with the group to deliver material, to convey a message to them. What I have up here, do anybody recognize what this is? You guys know what this is?
Scorebook.
Yeah, exactly. It's a scorebook for baseball, for softball. Now you knew that right away. Do you have kids who play?
And a husband.
And a husband. Have you ever actually had to keep score? So this, you might be actually really good at this. So I would appreciate it if you would pretend you have no idea what we're doing.
Okay.
Now, have you ever seen one of these?
Yes.
Have you ever had to actually sit there and do it? So you know how to keep score as well. That's right. First rate. That's just, we're drawing a diamond. Well, we're actually going to use the flip chart to teach people how to score a play during a baseball game, which seems pretty appropriate. The World Series was just on. So what we're going to do here, we'll go ahead and as we tear off our page, pre-prepared. Here, of course, is a bit. Now, I have pre-prepared, and I see some of you are laughing. Doesn't matter how much pre-preparing you do. If you can't draw, you can't draw. It's as simple as that. But you all have a much cleaner, prettier picture on the table in front of you. I'm going to grab my marker. What's your favorite color?
None of those.
None of those. Of these,
Purple.
Purple. We'll use purple. On a baseball diamond, we typically know everything by the position, the name of the position. This one right here in the center is, of course, the pitcher. Let's walk around and we'll label the positions first. What's here?
Or catcher.
Okay, the catcher.
First base. Third, short. Oh, short, you're right.
Shortstop. You sure you've done this before?
I didn't think about that.
Okay, so shortstop. And over here,
Third.
third base. We know it like this when we're watching a game. Ground ball to shortstop. We also, what's the other way to easily identify where a ball is hit in a baseball game? By
Numbers.
if you know the numbers of the player, or by what they have on the back of their jersey besides the numbers.
Their name.
Their names. So you can certainly put the names. Now, who's your favorite team? Do you have a favorite team?
There's only one team.
I'm sorry, which one did you say?
The Mets.
The Mets and...
Do I say my team or your team? I mean, Tigers.
So the Tigers. Which one do you guys want to use? We've got American National. National League won the World Series, we'll use them. So let's see if I can remember these. A pitcher for the Mets, I think you had Mike Pelfrey was a pitcher. Their catcher, I think Rod Barajas. First base for the Mets actually got hurt this year, so they used a bunch of not so great players over there. So we'll put Daniel Murphy. Luis Castillo played second for them before they released him. Your shortstop was Jose Reyes, but he's a free agent now. And third base before he got hurt was David Wright. So we know them that direction as well. We know the positions they play and we know them by their name. But in a scorebook, you go to both kind of this, how do you know them in a scorebook? By what? If we would score a play, it's done by, say,
Numbers.
the numbers. And not the jersey numbers, the numbers of the positions. So we'll use a different color here to make this stand out. I'm going to get you guys started, and it kind of goes around the wheel, but there's a trick. And see if you guys get, since you are experienced, we'll see if you guys catch the trick. The pitcher is number 1. What would the catcher then be?
2.
2. First base?
3.
3. Second base?
4.
Picking up on this, right? How about shortstop?
5.
Oh, I hear some debate.
Did you say second base was 4?
No.
Second base was 4. That was correct.
Yeah.
So shortstop is?
6.
I'll go with her. I don't know.
You guys can want to arm wrestle for it? Or?
No.
All right.
Because
So
it's first, second, third.
Oh.
That's correct.
Fifth,
This is the
and
trick.
short is-
They make the primary positions the first group of numbers, and then they come back and hit shortstop. So shortstop is 6, and third base then is 5. The outfield goes around 7, 8, 9, although we won't actually be using the outfielders. So on your sheet, you guys, I see you guys have labeled those as we went along, which is good. During the World Series, several times we heard ground ball to short, they turn it 6-4 to 3, the inning is over. So a 6-4-3 double play, look at the numbers we've put on our chart here, and let's tell me where the play goes.
Is it 6-4-3?
6-4-3, so
So it
grab,
went to short,
then,
to second, then to first.
correct, 6-4-3 double play. And that's basically the way it works. It can go to the outfield and come back in. If somebody individually makes it just a single number on the scorecard here. So let's just do one more. If we have a ground ball to third base, and he gets the guy out at first, the play goes what to what?
5 to 3.
5 to 3. And that's basically the way you keep score. It's actually a very, very easy and simple thing to do. Now I'm going to pull this off of here and see if we can find a good spot. I want you guys to do it one more. Put this over here where you guys can see it in case you need it, although you seem to be very good at this so far. I'm not going to put the labels up here. I'm going to just tell you on the diamond where the ball is hit. We'll do one more, and then, I don't have a prize for you guys. Just pats on the back would work. High five since it's a sports thing. We have a ground ball hit to second base, and we're just going to try and get the guy out at first. So ground ball to second, we're just throwing it to first. Say it, you're both, don't be shy. You got it. That was right.
4-3.
4 to 3. 4 to 3. Nice job. So that's the way we do that. We'll leave that up there because some secret stuff on the next slide. As we recap here, use of a flip chart should be done in these cases. When the flip chart is only an accessory to the presentation. We talked about the flip chart before we ever did anything with the flip chart. The main point we're trying to deliver here was all about flip chart usage. We didn't overly rely upon the flip chart. Can easily be edited. We added names, we added numbers, we came over here, we cleared our slate and let you guys be able to do it reflecting upon something we've already done. Electricity is not available. This is not plugged in. The computer's plugged in, the projector's plugged in, not plugged in. Great for continued review if we hung it on the wall. If we had a group who wasn't nearly as experienced as the two of you with keeping score, they could easily have just looked over here on our flip chart on the wall to see the numbers for these stops. Great time saver if they are prepared. If I had to take the time to do this fancy artwork that you all were in awe of when I first flipped to them, this would have significantly slowed down. If I wasn't confident enough in my ability to name players from teams knowing it could have been anything, I would have probably gone ahead and selected a team ahead of time and labeled the players already. Only useful if it can be seen. This is a smaller chart. If you guys are sitting in the back, you might not be able to see this. If you were an older group, you might not be able to see this. Remember, the chart you use depends upon the audience you're presenting it to, and it's easily moved place to place. If someone came and said, hey, I can't see that, I could very easily turn it to maybe where they could. If this is just not a bad spot, the light hits it wrong, I can move it someplace else. I don't have that luxury with these computers and this projector. They're there, they're not moving anywhere. Now, because I've pre-prepared, I know that I want you guys to be able to ask me some questions here. So anything that you have as in form of a question or anything that I may have left out that you all want to contribute to the rest of the group.
Would you use a flip chart with a large group of people?
I would if I, well, define large. Are we talking in a theater to where there's
Like 40.
40 is a little bit tough. So would I use it for a large group only if that group, it's kind of in a round. If you get 40 people going deep, that can actually get pretty far back. And depending upon, again, in a group that large, you're never really sure who's going to show up. Is it going to be an older group mixed in to where they're in the back and they can't quite see? I would use it with a large group if we could situate the large group to where they could be spread around and still see the chart. So that's a good question, but typically in that case, you're going to have to get something high enough that they can project, especially if someone might be blocking their view. Anything else? I want to ask another question because you might not like this next thing. I've got questions for you guys. I know. No one ever likes that.
Well, okay, wait, hold.
Okay,
Well,
do we need to go back?
Well, maybe, but you
Okay.
might be getting to it yet, and you
Okay.
just haven't yet. But, because you said in the beginning that you were going to talk about the colors. So are you
Right.
going to get to colors?
It-
Like,
it-
is there a reason why we use certain colors for certain things?
You know, that's a great question, actually, and I didn't touch on that. And we weren't getting to it, so you actually have done us a favor
Okay.
here. The colors that you use, again, have to be able to be seen from anywhere in the room. Primary colors are probably the best ones to think of, with the exception of yellow. Yellow's a primary color, right? You guys are teachers. Isn't it a primary color?
Yes.
I think it is.
It is, because green and yellow. Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. See, we were right. We should stop doubting ourselves as a group. I don't like yellow. Everything else, for the most part, I'm okay with, but they've got to be the base colors. It can't be light green. No, this is a solid purple. It's a solid black. It's a solid red. No variation. We're not looking for pastels. This is a very big thing, which can contribute to the ability to see. Because we can actually have a group that's close enough to us and think that we're doing well with the size chart and the type chart we're using, but the wrong color can destroy the entire thing from the get-go. So yeah, that's a great question. I primarily, pretty much myself, will stick with brown, black, red, or blue. We seem to be able to be seen, and then still provide enough difference between each other so that if I'm wanting something to stand out, it can still be seen fairly easily. All right. So here's my questions for you. It has to do with cheating. What's an easy way, if you're using a flip chart, to cheat, to remember to do something that your back might be to a screen, you can't see it? Can you think of a way to cheat? I actually have hints. Do you guys need hints?
Make a list.
Think yellow. Think yellow. Your teachers, you guys tell them to use these all the time. Think number 2.
Oh, a pencil.
A pencil. A pencil. If you use a pencil, and as long as the group's not sitting right here, can you guys see what I've written up here?
I see that there's something there, but I don't see what it is.
Did it catch your attention before I pointed it out? If I actually even go back a page here, and this is why I didn't tear this off, I actually have a note to myself right here that says recap, then question. So as I was finishing this one, I knew that my next slide was going to be the recap slide to remind you guys what we had worked on and learned today. If you use a pencil really, really light, you can actually make notes to yourself. Put a star to remember to tell a story to the group. It's a great way to cheat because it's hard to remember everything. And that's a great way to do that. So that's one of my favorite parts about these is the ability to cheat. So then, as I've pre-prepared, we're sliding back. This is, by the way, one of the reasons to actually tear these off, if you have to. I don't have anything else. If you guys don't have anything else for me, I will just thank you all for coming. Wish you good luck in your next session. I think you guys are learning how to use a whiteboard in a facilitation. So best of luck to you all, and we'll see you guys next time.